Should your company have a business operating system? I'm Aaron Hall, an attorney for business owners and entrepreneurial companies. If you're a business owner, I create these videos to give you educational information to discuss with your attorney or your other professional advisors so you can spot issues and grow a great company. What is a business operating system? A business operating system is essentially an accountability system so that what you plan to do has a process, breaking that down into steps has a process, making sure people know what they're supposed to be doing and have an accountability system for them, and a feedback loop to you so that you, as the business owner, know that things are getting done and you see what that progress is. You also know if there are problems and what needs to be addressed. So a business operating system is essentially having a system in place to operate your organization, a written step-by-step process so that you achieve the goals that you as the visionary have laid out for your business. We'll get into a little more detail in a moment, but first you're probably wondering, what are popular business operating systems? Well, the one that opened my eyes to this whole world was EOS, which stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. I learned about it from a book called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman. And many people consider Traction to be the Bible of entrepreneurial or business operating systems. EOS Worldwide is the owner of the EOS trademark, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, is, in my mind, one of the best operating systems for small companies. But let's talk about some of the others. There's Scaling Up by Verne Harnish. Another book of his is Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, again by Verne Harnish. Has a very similar operating system, presented in a different way with some different terminology, but again, very similar to Traction or EOS by Gino Wickman. Another popular operating system is OKR, or Objectives and Key Results. Another popular one, E-Myth by Michael Gerber. E-Myth is a book or a series of books that talks about the importance of thinking about your business as a system or even as a franchise that can be separated from you as the owner. It was one of the first books that I'm aware of that helped business owners think about their company as an operation separate from themselves. So think about if you run a bakery. Well, you may be the baker and the person meeting with customers and the person who runs the cash register. But in order for a bakery to truly have value that's separate from its owner, you need to think of it as a separate operation, the different people that go in those seats, and the process for hiring those folks, training them in, holding them accountable, and then tying that into your financial system. So E-Myth really started a movement of thinking about your business in the form of processes, or at least that's the first book that I saw that encouraged business owners to transition from operating in the day-to-day of their business to thinking on their business as operating system. Verne Harnish basically said, think of your business as something that can be repeated with a different operator, a person different from yourself. So get everything in your head into writing. Personally, what I didn't love about E-Myth is I felt like it left the reader saying, I love this, I want to do this, but not exactly knowing how. And that is where Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business came in. That's a book that gives you the nuts and bolts of how to do it. Another great book that talks about an operating system is 4 Disciplines of Execution by Covey. However, I don't think it's as comprehensive of a system. It really is just focusing on a couple key components, just like OKRs, or objectives and key results. So again, I highly recommend Traction Get a Grip on Your Business, which talks about how to implement the entrepreneurial operating system discussed by author Gino Wickman. All right, so what is in a business operating system? If you Google Traction EOS pie chart, you'll see some of the subjects I'm going to talk about today. Basically, the entrepreneurial operating system has 6 pieces of a pie. The first one is the people section, and that's broken down into 2 parts. You need to identify the right people, so the people who have the qualifications and the core values that you have, that look at the world with the same respect and life goals, those core values, that lifestyle philosophy. And then second part of having the right people is making sure they're in the right seats. So making sure they have the qualifications for the specific duties that they're doing. And how do you do that? That's broken down in the Traction Get a Grip on Your Business book. The second of the 6 pieces in the pie chart are vision. There is 8 questions to figure out what is your vision for the business, and how do you make sure that it's shared by all people in the company so they all have that same vision where they're going. There's an old saying from the Bible, without a vision, the people perish. And without a vision in the company that's shared by everyone, the company will go different directions, or the people in it will, and it will struggle, and it won't have the same traction. The next, or third, category is data. Making sure that you as an owner have a feedback loop between what's happening and you're knowing about it, knowing what the results are, and you're able to measure, this is the second part of this, whether the data aligns with your expectations, and if it doesn't, what's happening? Do you need to change something, change the system, etc.? So having that feedback loop, and Traction talks about how to set that up with routine meetings in management, where you have certain information presented to management on an ongoing basis so you can make sure you are getting traction in the company. Processes. Making sure that all your important processes are documented and followed by everyone. That's the 4th category. 5th, issues. Make sure that if there are any issues or problems in the business, they're getting on a list and they're being dealt with. The traction process is called IDS, identify, discuss, solve. And then 6th category in the EOS system is traction. Making sure that you have established quarterly goals, which Traction calls ROCs, but quarterly goals towards your 1-year goals and 2-year goals and 10-year goals. So you've broken those big goals down into quarterly goals or ROCs, and then you have a regular routine or pulse in meeting to review those with the company. So that is what is in a business operating system like EOS, discussed by the book Traction by Gino Wickman. All right, is a business operating system essentially SOPs, or standard operating procedures? I think you could definitely characterize it that way, but there's a little bit different emphasis. Standard operating procedures are typically a list of procedures in a company that people reference from time to time. Whereas an operating system is the full pulse of the company. It's the marching orders of the company. For example, the leadership team is reviewing on a weekly basis issues. How are we progressing towards our goals? And talking through those important key parts of the business. So Yes, it's standard operating procedures, but it is so much more than that. Will a business operating system work for all business types? I believe that there are going to be some business types that have some limitations. I think all businesses can benefit from most of an operating system like EOS, but not every business. For example, it's my understanding that law firms can struggle with implementing an operating system. And here's why. Often law firms are not run generally like a single business. It's actually a different business for each of the partners who are rainmakers. You may have them all under the same brand, but you're essentially having small businesses with a partner who each partner has their own values, their own goals, their own procedures. They might even have their own team. And so when you have that, you can actually implement a business operating system in each of those mini businesses. But you may have great trouble implementing an operating system for the entire firm. Real estate agents, I understand, are similar to this. You might have a large real estate organization, but they don't necessarily have the same values, the same operating procedures, the same way of bringing in clients. And so sure, at the large organization or umbrella organization level, you might be able to implement 80% of a business operating system, but often not 100%. Why? Because ownership and power and leverage is divested from a central operating hub or management to the individual real estate agents who are actually running their own small businesses. So in my opinion, it's still worth trying to implement, but understand that certain things, certain parts of an operating system might just not be possible in an organization where you actually have many businesses. So that's going to be law firms with partners running their own practice areas. It's going to be large organizations that have multiple departments that are somewhat disconnected from each other. And here's what I mean. I'm not talking about accounting and marketing. I'm talking about an entire business division that has its own customers, its own products or services, its own marketing plan, which may be very different from a different division. That's where an operating system like Traction EOS may struggle, at least if you're trying to implement it company-wide. What size company should have a business operating system? Generally, my rule of thumb is once there are more than 8 employees, that's typically when you need to start having documents for your procedures. And by the time the business gets to 8 employees or more, the business owner starts becoming a little further removed from the front lines of the business because now responsibility has been delegated to those 8 employees. And the business owner is relying on the employees to report back regarding what's happening on the front lines of the business. That is where a business operating system can be very helpful, specifically because it provides a feedback loop for information to get back to the business owner. It also allows the business owner's vision, plans, training, and proven processes to be pushed to the front lines to ensure that the business owner is not too disconnected and the employees are not too disconnected from the business owner. Certainly by 15 employees or 20 employees, you need to have some operating system in place. Can you implement a business operating system on your own? You certainly can. It just will take a longer period of time. I tried to implement it on my own in a law firm that we were operating, and it just took a lot longer. It probably took a couple years to mostly implement EOS in our law firm. Should you implement an operating system on your own? Well, I think that depends on whether you can have more time or more money to allocate to something like this and how much that will pay back. For example, let's say it costs you $40,000 to hire an implementer to come in. So that's a consultant who would come in and work on your business. Do you have $40,000? And if you invest that $40,000 and you start getting more traction on your goals by the end of the year, will you make substantially more than $40,000? If so, I think that's a good justification to hire an implementer to work on this as soon as possible. An operating system will help you get traction and grow much quicker. And I say grow, but I mean in the direction you want to grow. Maybe that's profits, maybe it's number of employees, maybe it's number of offices, maybe it's influence or reach with your customers. Whatever goals you set out, an operating system will help you get there quicker. But it is tough to implement because it's a lot of new procedures and new learning, some bumps and mistakes along the way. An implementer can help you in significant ways because the implementer can focus on running the systems, running the meetings, for example, facilitating those meetings, while you as the owner work on your part as the owner, casting the vision, talking about the methodologies that work, talking about the ideas that work. It's hard for you as an owner to learn a new operating system, try to implement or facilitate that, train the team on that, and then also do your part as the owner of casting the vision and talking about the other processes and goals, etc. I tried to do it, and we had an implementer come in a couple times. They're expensive, and so it's difficult to know whether to justify that, and I really think it depends on the size of your company and whether you have the money for it. So my rule of thumb is if you can generate substantially more than $40,000 to $50,000 in profits in a year by having an implementer, I'd say that could be a very good option for you. How hard is it to implement a business operating system on your own? The concepts aren't hard, but it is simply hard to be the one facilitating a new system, which is what an operating system is, while also fulfilling your role as the owner and answering all of the questions and filling in the system with the substance that's unique to your business. What is the best process to implement a business operating system on your own? I would start with a few, like one or two, I should say, exercises, get those running well, and then expand to the next one. So don't try to take it all on at once because it's just simply too many processes to figure out. Do one, master it for a month or two, and then move on to the next one. And that's what we did. Actually, we tried to implement it all at once, and it was very frustrating and wasn't working. But when we implemented one exercise or one discipline or one process at a time, that's when we started getting traction. It took a couple years to self-implement. Whereas if we had an implementer, we probably would have been fully implemented in 6 months to a year. How do you stay on track? Well, the best operating systems have a process so you keep revisiting, are you staying on track? For example, in EOS, you have weekly meetings where you are reviewing your one-year goals, your quarterly goals, any issues, any data or metrics or scorecard that you've developed to know how you're doing on leading indicators and lagging indicators. Let me pause for a moment and explain what that means. In EOS, each week you are going to look at your scorecard. This is a scorecard you have created. it might have lagging indicators about the success of your business. So an example of this would be profits. How much profit or money have we brought into the bank? That's a lagging indicator because the signal is delayed from the time you did the action. All right, so what is a leading indicator? Well, a leading indicator is something that is you are able to see very quickly how you're doing, and it leads money or profits or the actual goals that you're trying to achieve. For example, if you have a social media channel, you might look at how many videos are we getting produced each week. They might not even have been published, but they're produced. That's a leading indicator because it shows if you are on track to actually get the interaction with customers or clients through social media later. So first leading indicator, how many videos did you produce this week? The second one might be how many were edited or how many were published. The third might be how many views you had. And so whether something is a leading or lagging indicator isn't as big a deal. What is important is that you're not just looking at data that has come in at the end of the line, but rather you're looking at what are the things we need to do now. Maybe it's sales calls, for example, that will eventually result in achieving our goals. So how do you stay on track? It's by reviewing your scorecard, your metrics, and dealing with any issues that may come up on an ongoing or routine basis. Who can help your business implement an operating system? Well, if you want to do something like EOS, you go to EOS Worldwide and you can find trained and certified implementers. These are people who have paid to have access to the training, they've gone to some training, and they usually have access then to ongoing videos and support. It's kind of showing that they're committed to this methodology and understand it well. Usually, implementers will provide a free meeting because they believe in giving first. It allows you to essentially sample their expertise, their personality. And so I usually recommend you find 2 or 3 implementers and meet with them to really figure out who's the right fit for you and your company. And you'll find that there are many different styles of implementers, just like there are many styles of attorneys or business owners or salespeople. Likewise with implementers. How much does a Traction EOS implementer cost? Usually it's about $6,000 per day. Some are a few thousand more, some might be a couple thousand less, and generally you're paying for them either on a monthly or quarterly basis. So you'll have them come once a month or once a quarter is fairly common. You might be wondering, do I mentor companies who are implementing EOS or another operating system? No. I stick to my lane, which is legal, helping business owners avoid legal trouble for their business and set themselves up for legal success. There are other people who are experts in business operating systems, and they're going to be the best ones to serve you. All right, what are the first steps? Well, I'd recommend it's called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman. In my opinion, that one's the best. And just start working through it and start trying to implement 1 or 2 of the concepts in it. And then at some point, you may say, it's time to bring on a professional to help us implement that. But in the beginning, get the book, learn about it. It's an easy read. I remember sitting on the floor in a hallway in a church, reading the book, Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, as one of my daughters was in some sort of dance class through community ed. So it's an easy read. You can steal those little moments, and it's a game changer. It really is. An operating system takes you from having to figure out everything about business to finally taking the best practices that successful companies use. By the way, I've never encountered a successful company that isn't on some sort of operating system. It might be a homegrown operating system. It might be something they've developed themselves, but often it was refined over many years. And you don't need to wait many years to figure this out on your own. Now you have books like Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. How can a business operating system avoid legal problems? The significant problems that can destroy a company through lawsuits or other legal risks can often be mitigated by a solid checklist that allows you to revisit how are we doing in different categories, and do we have any risk or exposure in those categories. If you don't yet have the free cheat sheet that I give out, the 7 common legal mistakes made by new businesses, make sure you get that at least. That's at aaronhall.com/free. And I use this YouTube channel to talk about a lot of the mistakes and pitfalls and problems that have destroyed businesses, so you can learn from those lessons and avoid them yourself. And at some point in the future, I anticipate I'll probably provide some sort of additional training with my entire checklist that I go through with my clients. That is a checklist to preemptively avoid problems and avoid the risks that can destroy a business. All right, where can you learn more? Well, in the description box below, you'll see some links to additional resources. Again, I'm not a master at business operating systems, but I do always recommend that my business owner clients implement an operating system. And if you're not sure which one, go with something like Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. That's one of the easiest ones to implement early on, and there's a lot of support with other businesses throughout the country. In Minnesota alone, there are at least 1,000 businesses, I'm guessing maybe even 10,000, that are using the EOS operating system discussed in Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. All right, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.